Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Sthapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avataravariष्ठाय Ramakrishna te Namah. Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate, who came to establish religion universal. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic I have chosen from the Gospel. Supreme bliss only through Para-Vidya. It's a very important subject for all the spiritual aspirants. Once Yam visited Sri Ramakrishna during his first visit. So, he came near Sri Ramakrishna's room. There was a maid there. Her name is Brinde. So Master Masha asked her, referring to Sri Ramakrishna, does he read many books? Brinde answered very clearly, books? Oh dear, no. They are all on his tongue. Mahendranath Gupta, he was an intellectual, a very respected headmaster of a prominent school in the metropolis of Calcutta. The one who answered Yam's question was Brinde, an illiterate servant maid in the temple of Dakshineshwar. The subject of the query and answer was Sri Ramakrishna, considered by some as a god man and by others a madman. It is to be remembered that a few minutes earlier M had seen Sri Ramakrishna for the first time. Just a few minutes earlier. He had stood at the door of the master's room and gazed speechless on a room full of people seated on the floor, drinking in deep silence the ambrosial words flowing from the lips of the saint. He had asked himself if this was the great Shuka expounding the Bhagavat. Wonder-struck by the master's speech, M could not help thinking that it was the result of profound scholarship. The Paramahams must have delved deep into the various scriptures and collected the gems. M himself was a fine scholar, trained in Western logic and familiar with the best in Western philosophy. So he could assess the profundity of the wisdom flowing from Sri Ramakrishna's tongue. Such sublime ideas, he was sure, must have come from extensive reading. Naturally, he was anxious to know the books Sri Ramakrishna had mastered. But Vrinda's reply came to him as a shock. Here was the uneducated girl laughing at his question about books. She was pointing out that there was no need for the unlettered saint to go to books. All the wisdom in the world was within him and would gush out unimpeded from his tongue like the mighty Ganges from the Himalayas. She was even suggesting that instead of Sri Ramakrishna reading books, others could compose books from the words issuing from his lips. The witnessing angels above must have smiled among themselves, because M was the man ordained to record verbatim the sayings of the Master and produce a book which was to become the greatest spiritual legacy of our times. It is doubtful if M was convinced at this stage about the maidservant's point of view. He must have thought that she was only eulogizing the great saint. But this reservation was removed when M received a second shock while talking to the Master. Sri Ramakrishna, after making inquiries about M, asked him about his wife. M answered, "She is all right, but I am afraid she is ignorant." Master, with evident displeasure, said, "And you are a man of knowledge?" This was the straw that broke the camel's back. These few words of the Master brought about a mutation in M, and henceforward his whole intellectual and spiritual outlook was thoroughly changed. In fact, M had been only defending his wife. He meant to say that she had not much of schooling to speak of, so she could not be expected to be interested in scholarly discussions and expositions. He was subconsciously excusing himself for not bringing her with him to see Sri Ramakrishna. She couldn't have benefited much by meeting the saint. But the Master's reaction was totally unexpected. He was turning round and asking M if he thought himself a wise man who could look upon the rest of the world with a sardonic smile. Sardonic smile. Sri Ramakrishna was asking him, "What do you know that has made you so proud?" The Paramahamsa's words went home. In a flash, M understood that what he had considered knowledge all these years was no knowledge at all. Real knowledge was something quite distinct, of whose ABC he knew nothing. And he thanked his stars that at last he had been brought to the feet of a God-man who could impart to him that knowledge, knowing which everything else is known. Now only did the headmaster's real education begin. In the 4 years that followed, M moved closely with the Master and received a training in true wisdom that has become our heritage as the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Sa-Vidya ya vimuktaye. That is knowledge which releases. The purpose of knowledge is to give us utter freedom. Know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Knowledge as we usually conceive it has indeed many uses. Knowledge is power. Knowledge brings pleasure. Knowledge begets honor. But these are all fringe benefits. The vital role of knowledge is to free us totally from fear, from doubt, from uncertainty, from the sense of want and inadequacy. If we apply this criterion, we shall discover that most of what we take for knowledge is only pseudo-knowledge, sheep in lion's clothing. All the arts and sciences we have so sedulously cultivated and developed down the millennia, and with which we have built up a marvelous civilization, are but apologies for true wisdom. This was the point Sri Ramakrishna was stressing at the very start to his ordained biographer, and this was also the point that Sanat Kumar explained to Narad when Narad approached him in his spiritual predicament. Narad was a Vidyadhara, literally meaning a repository of knowledge. The text he knew looked formidable. He reels off to the Guru a long list of the sciences he has mastered, the Vedas, the Vedangas, and a galaxy of disciplines including treatment of poisons. But despite this massive scholarship, Narad feels that he is only a mantravid, not a tattvavid. He knows correctly the words of the scriptures, but not the meaning they point to. So he has approached the eternal boy, Sanat Kumar, to learn from him that wisdom attaining which nothing else remains to be attained. And to him Sanat Kumar explains that Vidya or knowledge falls into two categories. One is Para-Vidya and the second one Para-Vidya. All the sciences that Narad has listed belong to the Apara. They have their uses, but only up to a point. Etavanasya mahima. The summum bonum of life cannot be attained except through Para-Vidya. Only by knowing Atman Brahman can one attain the supreme beatitude. When Para-Vidya is gained, everything else will be added unto you. You will be no more dependent on anything. You will be utterly free. Not that Para-Vidya is to be scorned any more than the physical body is to be scorned by an aspirant. Shariramadhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. The body is a primary tool for practicing dharma. The tool has to be kept clean and efficient if the work is to be finished satisfactorily. But then the instrument should not be mistaken for the achievement. The Para-Vidya is only a stepping stone to the Para. It is like a gymnasium in which we exercise our intellectual muscles. The intellectual strength thus acquired is to be devoted to attain the Para-Vidya. Chittasya shuddhaye karma. All action is for purifying the mind. Action by itself does not take us to ultimate, but selfless action cleanses the mirror of the mind and makes it a fit reflector for the Supreme. So too, mastery of the Para-Vidya makes the intellect so spotless that Para-Vidya can shine in it. A Para-Vidya can likewise be compared to a broom employed to sweep away all the dust in the room in order that the room may be fit for the Para to be received. Indeed, only when we refuse to be dazzled by the showmanship of Para-Vidya and understand its limited functions, that the eagerness for the Para comes to us. The child is happy with his multicolored toys, There is nothing wrong in the delight of the toddler derives from his toys. But as he grows up, he outgrows also the toys and realizes that there is a dimension of happiness that no toy can give. Para-Vidya belongs to the infancy of our spirituality. As long as you are hanging on Para-Vidya, you are just still a baby. It does serve an honorable and adequate role at that stage. But as we evolve spiritually, we also come to know its limitations and start panting for the Para-Vidya, which alone can bring us to the path beyond sorrow. It's only through Para-Vidya we can achieve supreme peace and bliss. And when none other methods. It is to be noted that Sri Ramakrishna himself had the greatest respect for what we normally call learning. He showed the highest honor to scholars like Vidyasagar and Keshav Chandra Sen. He complimented them on the grand store of knowledge they had amassed. But he also made it clear to them in the sweetest way that such knowledge by itself meant little in the ultimate sense. With the disciples he trained into spiritual giants, he was more direct. Shashi, the future Swami Ramakrishna, was a keen intellectual to whom working out abstruse mathematical problems was a hobby. Once while he was attending on the master, Shashi took a fancy for the Persian language. Many of the sublime poems and sayings of the Sufi mystics are recorded in that language, and Shashi wanted to taste them in the original. It so happened that while Shashi was in the next room, absorbed in his Persian book, the master called him. Thrice he called, but Shashi did not hear. When at the fourth call, Shashi hurried to the master's bedside. Sri Ramakrishna asked him what he had been doing. When Shashi explained how he was studying Persian text, the master pointed out that a study which stood in the way of the disciple attending to his master's needs would be futile. This reprimand was sufficient for the scholarly Shashi to throw his books into the Ganges. Scholarship is to take us nearer to the Lord and not to make us dally longer in the Vanity Fair. The Para-Vidya, which has such a fascination for us practical men, is often a millstone round the neck. Yatha kharaha chandana bharavahi bharasya vetta natu chandanasya. Meaning, the donkey carrying a bundle of sandalwood knows only the heaviness of the load and not the fragrance of the sandalwood. Knowledge should sit lightly on us. We should be conscious of it not as a task or as a burden, but as an aspect of the joy of the divine. Sri Ramakrishna tells us of the Bhagavad Pandit who approached the king offering to explain the great scriptures to him. Every time the Pandit read out a portion of the Bhagavad, the king would ask him to go home and try to understand the piece before explaining to him. Thrice the Pandit went to the king, each time more cocksure about his grasp of the great text. And each time the king sent him away, asking him to study better. And then the truth flashed on the Pandit's mind. The Bhagavad is not for enlightening others. Its primary purpose is to enlighten oneself and make oneself free. The king had been in effect telling the Pandit, when you yourself remain bound, how can you release another? First come out of your own bondage. And then, if God wills, you can unbind others too. The Pandit understood what real freedom is, and so the idea of going to the king to teach him and gets a monetary reward completely vanished from his mind. And then it was the king who came in all humility to the Pandit's house and begged him to teach him the wisdom of God. There is a simple test to distinguish Para-Vidya from Apara. When we are pursuing Para-Vidya, the ego of knowledge will be in full bloom. We will be conscious of our intellectual acumen and claim the honor due to such excellence. But when we are lost in Para-Vidya, the ego vanishes like the salt dole that has stepped into the sea. The saltiness remains, but not the dole form. Para-Vidya makes us utterly selfless. Sri Ramakrishna was never tired of remarking that the words of wisdom that flowed from his lips were not the result of his intellectual activity. The Divine Mother, he would say, thrust the words through his throat. He was but an instrument through whom the divine wisdom issued. Sri Ramakrishna was a unique example of an author who claimed no copyright. He had, by the Mother's grace, free access to the boundless ocean of divine wisdom. He was a conduit through which that nectar flowed, and his only duty was not to put any impediment in the path of that flow. There is, however, one feature about the Para-Vidya that Sri Ramakrishna exemplified. If a knower of Apara-Vidya be called a Pandit, and a knower of Para-Vidya a Jnani, Sri Ramakrishna was a knower who transcended both these levels and functioned as a Vijnani. He was not content that he had attained the Para-Vidya. He was only in veritable agony to share it with all willing souls. After he had realized the divine beyond all reservations, he used to literally cry out from the housetop for disciples to whom he could impart the treasure. And when Narayan, his most beloved disciple, wanted to remain perpetually in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the master admonished him for the narrowness of his outlook. Narayan was not to be a tender, though lovely, creeper, but a huge banyan tree under which an army of elephants could be tied. The Para-Vidya the master gave Narayan was for being broadcast to the whole world. Highly significant was the dream that the Holy Mother saw in this connection. She had a vision of the Master plunging into the Ganges and getting dissolved in it, and Narendra scooping up the water in his joint palms and sprinkling it everywhere. It is a prophetic preview of what Swamiji was to accomplish with the message he had derived from his great Master. It was after this vision that the Holy Mother gave Swamiji permission to cross the seas and attend the Parliament of Religions at Chicago to make Indian wisdom familiar to the West. Para-Vidya stands for supreme serenity, but then it is not a static serenity, it is a dynamic one. The Vijnani does not shy away from the world of imperfect men and women, but makes himself available to every one without any manner of distinction, leaving it to the recipient to absorb as much of the divine as he can. He is a sun who does not keep himself aloof high up in the sky, but sheds his light and heat impartially, allowing each one to partake of the radiance according to his capacity and choice. We often call anything highly difficult as Brahma-Vidya, another name for Para-Vidya. But if only we have eyes to see and heart to understand, we can absorb Para-Vidya as spontaneously as the sunshine around us. Sri Ramakrishna said to Govinda, the fact is that one does not feel the longing to know or see God as long as one wants to enjoy worldly objects. The child forgets everything when he plays with his toys. Try to cajole him away from play with a sweetmeat. You will not succeed. He will eat only a bit of it. When he relishes neither the sweetmeat nor his play, then he says, I want to go to my mother. He doesn't care for the sweetmeat anymore. If a man whom he doesn't know and has never seen says to the child, come along, I shall take you to your mother, the child follows him. The child will go with anyone who will carry him to his mother. The soul becomes restless for God when one is through with the enjoyment of worldly things. Then a person has only one thought, how to realize God. He listens to whatever anyone says to him about God. When he heard this, Master Mahashaya thought to himself, alas, the soul becomes restless for God only when one is through with the enjoyment of worldly things. Sri Ramakrishna was at Balram Bose's house in Calcutta. He was explaining the mystery of divine incarnation to the devotees. Master said, in order to bring people spiritual knowledge, that is Para-Vidya, an incarnation of God lives in the world in the company of devotees, cherishing an attitude of love for God. It is like going up and coming down the stairs after having once reached the roof. In order to reach the roof, the other people should follow the path of devotion as long as they have not attained knowledge and become free of desire. The roof can be reached only when all desires are done away with. The shopkeeper does not go to bed before finishing his accounts. He goes to sleep only when his accounts are finished. Sri Ramakrishna said to him, a man will certainly succeed if he takes plunge. Success is sure for such a man. A certain person asked Sri Ramakrishna, Master, kindly instruct me in one word so that I may be illumined. To which Sri Ramakrishna replied, the Absolute is the only reality. The universe is unreal. Realize this and then sit silent. The idea of the ego involves that of the non-ego. He who has an idea of light has also an idea of darkness. He who has a sense of sin has also a sense of virtue. He who has a sense of right has also a sense of wrong. It is ignorance that leads one to seek for God outside oneself. When one feels that God is within oneself, it is knowledge. He who has it here, that is, feels the presence of God within himself, has it also there, that is, has his place at his lotus feet. It is the nature of the lamp to give light. With its help, some may cook food, some may forge deeds, and some may read the holy scriptures. Is it the fault of the light? So is it the fault of God that some try to attain salvation with the help of His holy name, while others use His name for success in attempted theft? Have you any idea of God with form and God without form? They are like ice and water. When water freezes into ice, it has a form. When the same ice is melted into water, all form is lost. God with form and God without form are not two different beings. He who is with form is also without form. To a devotee, God manifests Himself in various forms. Just think of a shoreless ocean, an infinite expanse of water, no land visible in any direction. Only here and there are visible blocks of ice formed by intense cold. Similarly, under the cooling influence, so to say, of the deep devotion of his worshipper, the infinite reduces himself into the finite and appears before him as a being with form. Again, as on the appearance of the sun, the ice melts away, so on the appearance of the sun of knowledge, God with form melts away into the formless. The snake has poison in its fangs, but is none the worse for it. The poison does not affect it or cause its death. It is poison in relation to other creatures whom it may chance to bite. Similarly, although the phenomenal universe exists in God, He is above and beyond it. The universe of phenomena exists as such only for us. And Sri Ramakrishna explains Para-Vidya and Para-Vidya in terms of Maya. He says Maya is of two kinds. One leading towards God, that is Vidya Maya, which we call Para-Vidya, and the other leading away from God, that's called Avidya Maya, which is Para-Vidya. What is all this secular knowledge people acquired leading them to? Jobs, possessing things, and so on. So, they are not leading him towards the realization of the truth, but they are making him more and more worldly, and they are bound by worldly desires. Vidya Maya, that is Para-Vidya, again is of two kinds, discrimination and non-attachment. With the help of these, individual souls surrender themselves to the mercy of God. Avidya Maya, there is Apara, is of six kinds: lust, anger, avarice, inordinate attachment, pride and envy, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. This kind of Maya gives rise to the sense of I and mine and serves to keep men chained to the world. But as soon as Vidya Maya manifests itself, all Avidya Maya is totally destroyed. The sun or the moon cannot be properly reflected in turbid water. Likewise, the universal soul cannot be properly realized so long as the veil of Maya is not removed. That is, so long as the sense of I and mine is not gone. The sun lights up the earth, but a small cloud will hide it from our view. Similarly, the insignificant veil of Maya prevents us from seeing the omnipresent and all-witnessing Chidananda. Existence, knowledge, bliss. If you push away the weeds in a pond, the floating matter will presently return to its old position. In the same manner, if you push away Maya, it will return to you in a short time. But then, just as you could prevent the return of the weeds by interposing a piece of floating bamboo in their way, so also could you prevent the return of Maya by the fence of knowledge and love of God. In that case, Maya could not make its way through such obstacle. Satchidananda alone would be perceived. A mighty raft of wood floating down a river carries on it hundreds and does not sink. A small piece of wood floating down may sink with the weight of a crow. So, when a Savior incarnates, hundreds find salvation through His grace. The perfect man only saves himself with much toil and trouble. The locomotive engine reaches the destination itself and also draws and takes with it a long train of loaded wagons. Incarnations of God in like manner carry multitude of men to the footstool of God. Man is like a pillowcase. The color of one pillowcase may be red, that of another black, and so on, but all contain the same cotton. So it is with man. One is handsome, another is ugly, a third pious, a fourth wicked, but the Divine One dwells within them all. The mind of the worldly is like the beetle. The beetle loves to live in cow dung. It doesn't like any other substance. It will feel very uneasy if you force it into a fragrant lotus. Similarly, the worldly minded don't care for anything else except a talk about worldly things. They will leave the place where the people are found talking about God and matters spiritual and find peace by betaking themselves to a place where the idle gossip is going on. As when fishes are caught in a net, some do not struggle at all, but remain calm in the net. Some again struggle hard to come out of the net, but fail in the attempt, while a third set actually effect their escape by rending the net. So there are three classes of men in this world: the bound, the struggling, and the released. A fisherwoman on her way home was overtaken by a storm at nightfall. So she took refuge in a florist's house. The florist received her very kindly and allowed her to pass the night on the porch adjoining the room in which she kept his flowers. But although thus comfortably lodged, she couldn't get a wink of sleep. At last she discovered that the sweet aroma of the flowers in the garden was what had kept her awake. She therefore sprinkled some water on her empty basket of fish and placed it close to her nose. In a short time she fell into a sound sleep. Similar is the case with the worldly minded. They too relished nothing but the foul smell of the putrid things of the world. In what unmistakable terms Sri Ramakrishna tells. By talking with a worldly man, one can feel that his heart is filled with worldly thoughts and desires, just as one can feel that the crop of a young pigeon is full of grains. Worldliness is what men of this order care about. They don't like to hear religious discourses. The sun's light falls equally on all surfaces, but only bright surface like water, mirrors, and polished metals can reflect it more. In like manner, although God abides in all, He manifests Himself more in the hearts of the pious. Though it is true that the Almighty dwells in every place, yet every place is not fit to be visited. As one kind of water may be used for washing your feet, another for rinsing your mouth, a third may be drunk, while a certain other again may not even be touched. Even so, some places are fit to be visited, some only to be saluted from a distance and bidden goodbye, and so on. True it is that God dwells even in the tiger, but we must not go and face the animal. So it is true that God dwells even in the most wicked, but it is not meant that we should associate with them. The anger of the good is like a line which is drawn on the surface of water and which soon disappears. Gold is distinguished from brass by the touchstone. Similarly, human nature, whether one is sincere or insincere, is tested by God. Nothing will rouse up the worldly minded. They suffer from no end of pain and trouble in this life. Still they do not get any wiser. Just think of the camel. It is fond of thorns and will not abstain from eating them, blood trickling down its mouth notwithstanding. Similarly, the worldly minded do not take to heart even a great bereavement, and in a few days feel and act as if nothing had happened. So, Sri Ramakrishna's words of wisdom, they come under the category of Para-Vidya. The gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is to educate us in Para-Vidya. So Para-Vidya we should aspire for. Para-Vidya binds you into this world. Para-Vidya releases you from the world. Para-Vidya means spiritual knowledge. So when you are acquiring spiritual knowledge, when you apply it in your life, you will get immense peace and bliss. So, one can acquire supreme bliss only through Para-Vidya. That is, only through spiritual knowledge. That's what Nachiketas also wanted from god of death, Yama. He wanted Para-Vidya. He wanted to know the nature of the Atman. He wanted to resolve the mystery of life after death. What will happen to the soul after death? Where does it go? Etc. So whole spiritual knowledge was imparted to Nachiketas by Lord Yama himself, by hearing which he became illumined. His mind was spotless, character was spotless, full of vigor, sharp intellect, clear mind. So he got the wisdom, the true wisdom. So through Para-Vidya, Nachiketas attained supreme peace and bliss. So we have to really make efforts to learn spiritual knowledge, to acquire Para-Vidya, to struggle in a right way. We are struggling, no doubt, but we are struggling towards Para-Vidya, towards something which is not real. So as long as you are struggling towards the unreal things, you are bound to suffer and undergo restlessness. The only way to enjoy the bliss of God is through Para-Vidya. Any questions to ask? Page 887. The friend sang a song. Proclaim the glory of God's name as long as life remains in you. The dazzling splendor of His radiance floods the universe. Like nectar streams His boundless love, filling the hearts of men with joy. The very thought of His compassion sends a thrill through every limb. How can one fittingly describe Him? Through His abounding grace, the bitter sorrows of this life are all forgotten instantly. On every side, on land below, in sky above, beneath the seas, in every region of this earth, men seek Him tirelessly. And as they seek Him, ever ask, where is His limit? Where is His end? True wisdom's dwelling place is He, the elixir of eternal life, the sleepless, ever wakeful eye, the pure and stainless one. The vision of His face removes all trace of sorrow from our hearts. Doctor said to Yam, isn't it a beautiful song? How do you like that line? Where is His limit? Where is His end? Yam said, yes, that's a very fine line. It fills the mind with the idea of the infinite. Doctor said tenderly to Yam, it's already late in the morning. Have you taken your lunch? I finish mine before 10 and then begin my professional calls. Otherwise I don't feel well. Look here, I have been thinking of giving a feast to you all, meaning Sri Ramakrishna's devotees. One day. I am thinking of giving you a feast to you all one day. Yam said, that will be fine, sir. Doctor, where shall I arrange it? Here or at Shampukor house? Whatever you suggest. Yam said, it doesn't matter. Wherever you arrange it, we will be very happy to dine with you. The conversation turned to Kali, the Divine Mother. Doctor said, Kali is an old hag of the Santals. Yam burst into loud laughter and said, where did you get that? Doctor, oh, I have read something like that. Yam laughs. They began to talk about the ecstasy that Vijaya and others had experienced in the previous day in the master's room. The doctor also had been present on the occasion. Doctor said, yes, I witnessed that ecstasy. But is excessive ecstasy good for one? Yam said, the master says that an excess of ecstasy harms no one if it is the result of the contemplation of God. He further says that the luster of a gem gives light and soothes the body. It doesn't burn. Doctor said, oh, the luster of a gem, that's only a reflected light. Yam said, he also says that a man does not die by sinking in the lake of immortality. God is that lake. A plunge in that lake doesn't injure a man. On the contrary, it makes him immortal. Of course, he will become immortal only if he has faith in God. Doctor said, yes, that's true. We shall stop here. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust raging furiously within. Our name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself, O self, down deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar at every step, bathing in His name that bath for very selves. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy. How huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue. The playthings of lust or the ties of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. How I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, but thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be freed from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good be done to all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding thee of all sacred works, be satisfied, for he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased, he being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.